Imagine this, you've had a shit day at work, you come home, you order some takeout, you grab a beer, you sit down on the couch, when suddenly, stop wasting time. Imagine how much you'd get done if that was something you could pay for. Literally, someone to slap you across the face when you're wasting time. But unfortunately, there isn't. So instead, I'm gonna share with you 9 things I quit to go from broke party boy at 23 to multi-millionaire now at 34. And we're gonna start with the most important one, and that's 1, don't compare yourself with anyone but yourself. I know that deep down inside, we all know that we shouldn't be comparing ourselves with anyone but ourselves from yesterday. But that said, is that the only person we compare ourselves to? Of course not. Now, I used to have the bad habit of comparing myself to other people. I used to compare myself to other people my age, I used to compare myself to other people in my city, and I used to compare myself with people driving supercars. Literally, I used to compare myself to anyone who I thought was more successful than me. But what did that do? All it did was make me feel like shit. It made me feel like I was behind in life. It made me feel like I wasn't getting enough done. It just made me feel like I wasn't enough. When in reality, the only person you should be comparing yourself to is you from yesterday, is you from last year. Why? Because there is no one else like you. The only thing you can do is take yourself and ask yourself honestly, am I getting better every day? Am I putting in the effort? And am I focusing on the things I can control? And with the power of tidy gains, shout out to James Clear, if you get 1% better every day, that's gonna compound massively over a year, over a lifetime, and that's gonna change your life. But when you compare yourself to another person that you deem more successful than you are, it's gonna make you lose motivation, it's gonna make you lose drive, and it's gonna make you not wanna get out of bed in the morning. 2, say no to energy vampires. Look, I'm gonna keep this one short and sweet because you've probably heard this one already if you've watched more than one of my videos. The people that you surround yourself with have a massive impact on how your life's gonna turn out. So I would strongly suggest avoid people who only take, and don't add any value to your life. If you have a so-called friend that only ever messages or calls you when they need something, and not when you need something, not when you're going through a tough time, or not when you've done something great, maybe it's time to ask yourself the question, is that really the type of person that you want in your life? Spend time with people who want more for you, not from you. I know it sounds a little cliche, but there are a bunch of great people out there. So if you're wasting time with people that aren't really good friends, you're actually doing yourself a disservice. So look through your contacts and maybe it's time to cut them out if they're not supporting your dreams. Because if they make it harder for you to succeed, if they're always pulling you down, why would you want them in your life? You actually don't need them. 3, don't take advice from people who haven't done what you want to do, right? This one's pretty straightforward. You wouldn't take fitness advice from a fat person, you wouldn't take business advice from someone who hasn't built a business, and you wouldn't take relationship advice from Elon Musk. I mean, he's been married like 3 times, he's got like 100 kids, but if I wanted to build a rocket or I wanted to start a business, I'll definitely take his advice. And I know you're sitting there like, yep, this all makes sense, but what's the problem? Well, the problem is if you don't know anyone who's done what you want to do, who do you turn to? Your parents. And we tend to take what our parents say to heart, and what's the problem with that? Well, if they haven't done what you want to do, the advice they give you is more than likely gonna be flawed. So if you want to be a YouTuber, don't ask your parents, ask a YouTuber that you look up to. If you want to start a business, don't ask your dad who's been in the same job working for someone else his whole life. Join a mastermind instead. Success leaves clues, and in order to figure out the clues, you need to ask the right questions to the right people. If the people that you get advice from haven't done what you want to do, appreciate their advice, but just don't take it to heart. This one brings us nicely to 4, don't blame anyone or anything for your situation. Now, this is a tough one because we all do this from time to time. When I was younger, I used to blame everyone and everything. Any shit situation that I was stuck in, it was always somebody else's fault. So when I fell off my skateboard, it was the skate park's fault. When I got bad grades, it was the teacher's fault. When I got expelled from school, it was my friend's fault, right? But in reality, no one else was responsible for my situation. I was the one who fell off my skateboard. I was the one who didn't study. I was the one that chose to hang around the wrong crowd. Now, it took me to my mid-20s to realize this, but when you blame another person, you lose the ability to take control of the situation. When you take ownership, you take control, and when you have control over the situation, you have the ability to change it. Now, imagine starting a business and things were getting better each and every day, but suddenly business went to shit. Look, you could go out there and blame the market, you could go out and blame what's going on in the world, or you could go out and blame your team. But is that going to help you reach payroll? No, it's not. But when you take responsibility of the situation for what's happened, what you can do is you can make changes and then get your business back on track. 5, don't let your devices control your life. So look, every YouTuber says the same thing. Don't waste time on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Don't spend 3 hours a day in front of the TV. So it's kind of funny. You know you shouldn't be doing it, but you do it anyway. Why? I honestly think a lot of people waste an incredible amount of time doing these things because they don't have a plan for their life. And if you don't have a plan for your life, you don't actually know what scrolling through TikTok for 3 hours is actually stealing away from you. And if this is you without a plan for your life, I would suggest take a day off, go out and get yourself a notepad, go and get yourself a pen, and actually create a vision for your life. Think about what do you want to do, who do you want to be, and what do you want to have? And just by doing this, your scrolling habits are kind of going to disappear. Look, I believe in order to realize your dreams, in order to realize your goals, you need your time, you need your focus, and if all of that is getting sucked up by your devices, you're never going to realize your dreams. Which brings us to number 6, don't just read books, study them. When I first started reading, my goal was just to tick them off the list because I heard you got to read this, you got to read that. So I wanted to speed read them as fast as I could. I didn't write anything down, I didn't highlight anything because the goal was just tick them off the list. And of course, what is the real value in the book? It's not just the information, it's in applying the information. So acting on the things that you've learned. And the moment I realized that, I started to act on everything that I learned. And what did that do? It helped me get a little bit better each and every day. And a little bonus recommendation, when you're stuck on something in life, when you've got a bit of a lack in your life, pick that one subject and study that subject only. So let's say you want to develop good habits. Don't try and cram 100 different books on 100 different subjects. Why don't you go and compile a list of say 10 books on developing good habits and read those books only until you've mastered developing good habits. You know, it's so easy to go out and read 50 books on all these different subjects, go to this seminar or that seminar, get this coach or that coach, and what does that do? It makes you feel good about yourself. But it's not about feeling good about yourself, it's about making sure that you're moving in the right direction. So it's important to think about what your weakness is or what you want to work on and study that subject only until you've mastered the art. Because if you just skim read through books, you're probably not going to remember any of it. Some of you are definitely going to give me some criticism for this one, and that's 7, don't waste time doing chores you don't want to do. So most people have certain things they need to do to maintain their life. So the cooking, the cleaning, the washing, the shopping, and a whole lot more. Now, if you enjoy doing these things, that's great, keep on doing them. But I recognize at a certain point in life, I like delegating what's not valuable to me. If you're making good money, why don't you go out and hire that gardener so you can spend more time doing something that you love doing? So let's say that gardener costs you $25 an hour for 2 hours a week, and let's say that you earn $100 an hour doing something that you love. Just by hiring that gardener, you make an extra $75 an hour doing something you love, and it's a small habit that will make a huge difference over time. And the great thing about delegating is you don't waste your time doing something that you don't want to do. And if someone calls you lazy for it, whatever, you're saving time, you're saving money, and best of all, you get to do what you love. You can always make more money, but you can never buy back your time. Another one that I picked up recently is 8, don't waste away those spare minutes. So this is something that I picked up from Matthew Dix in Some Day Is Today. The key takeaway from this book is that we all waste away those spare minutes. Let's say you've got 17 minutes before you make that phone call, before you have that meeting, or before you're catching up with friends. So often we default to thinking and going, oh, it's only 17 minutes, I'm not gonna get that much done anyway. So what do? We default to jumping on our phone and scrolling through social media. But this time is limbo mode. Essentially, we're not really doing anything until the thing that needs to be done. And something we all need to get better at realizing is that time is our most valuable resource, and those minutes actually count. And I get it, you're probably not going to get a whole heap done in those 17 minutes, but what could you do? You could read a few pages of a book, you could respond to a few emails, you could maybe book in that massage. The cool thing is, when you value those little minutes, you get a whole heap done and life thanks you for it. And if you're sitting there thinking, look, I just want to sit on TikTok and scroll, that's completely fine, but recognize that the most successful people value those little minutes. And finally, 9, don't say yes to every opportunity. When I first quit my job and started my business, I would say yes to every opportunity that came my way. Why? Because I was worried if I didn't say yes, I would miss out on the next opportunity that came my way. But then of course, because I was saying yes to everything, I was spread way too thin, and then everything wasn't getting done properly. It was getting done to a poor standard, and I was pissing off my customers. And after annoying my customers and pissing off my customers for a while, I realized that saying yes to every opportunity is actually the easy option, and actually saying no is very hard. The thing is, if you keep saying yes to everything, eventually you're going to disappoint someone because things are going to slip through the cracks and things are going to fall apart. Steve Jobs used to say, sometimes the most productive thing you can do is to say no. So now when you say yes, I want you to think of adding items to your backpack. Every time you say yes, another item goes in your backpack. And what's gonna happen? Eventually, that backpack's gonna get too heavy and it's gonna break. Now, what do? When I'm presented with the opportunity nowadays, I'm gonna ask myself the simple question. Will saying yes to this opportunity align with my goals and dreams? And if it doesn't, I say no. There you go, 9 things I quit doing to go from being broke to where I am today. 1, don't compare yourself to anyone but yourself. 2, say no to energy vampires. 3, don't ask for advice from people who haven't done what you want to do. 4, don't blame anyone or anything for your situation. 5, don't let your devices control your life. 6, don't just read books, study them. 7, don't waste time doing chores. 8, don't waste those spare minutes. 9, don't say yes to every opportunity. And if you're ready to make some changes, improve your life, be sure to check out this next video.